I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker tonight. We're going slightly off format. I'll explain the format in one moment. He received Harinam in 1966 from Srila Prabhupada and Diksha in 1967 in the Radha Damodar temple. And he is the author of Blazing Sadhus. And I'd like to say, before I hand over the floor and before I explain the format, I just want to say to Prabhu and to all of Prabhupada's limbs, all of those devotees that served and served Prabhupada so extraordinarily over the years, our deep gratitude, because without your devotion and without your sacrifice, I personally would have no connection to Krishna consciousness. I would be doing no seva. I probably wouldn't have heard of the holy name. So I know I'm not alone in expressing our deep gratitude to you, those of us who didn't meet Srila Gurudev. And our guest tonight, as you all know, is Sriman Acyutananda Prabhu. And the format is as follows. Basically, I'm going to hand over the Vyasa-san to him for the whole session. He will speak until he stops speaking, and then we'll be taking questions after that. So when we get to the Q&A session, please acquaint yourself with the Zoom chat and address the questions to me, and I will do my best to try and filter through and ask Prabhu the best array of questions within the time allotted. Prabhu, a very warm welcome. I've been excited all week. I know a lot of other people have as well. Over to you. Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol, thank you. Sadhu Sanghe, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sanghe Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Association, and the worst thing that Ramananda Roy says to Mahaprabhu, the worst thing is not to have the association of devotees, Vaishnava devotees. So this is recurring even so many years after Srila Prabhupada's leaving this world. It is growing and growing so much all over the world. So I've been asked to speak on our entire darshan of the absolute truth is based on our parampara. I've just been listening to some debates by rabbis and other Western leaders. You know, there's not a single word written about Jesus during Jesus' own life. Buddha comes, but there are no antecedents. Muhammad comes. L. Ron Hubbard just comes in. There can never be a book. The philosophy of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the philosophy of Narayan Maharaj. It is all based on repeating exactly and then presenting it accordingly. Guru is Sakshat Hari, so Krishna also reciprocates, and the spiritual master is given the direction from within his heart, what is necessary at different times. Necessary is another meaning of prayojana, what is necessary. Now, in common Bengali talk, you know, ki prayojana, what do you need? What is the necessity? And so our need will look like it's various, but what gives me, the beginning of our devotional life is Sraddha, Ado Sraddha. First you have to have faith. How do we have faith? By hearing about Krishna in comprehensive terms. And the pramanas, sadhu, shastra, guru. And usually you want to have, in shastra, you want to have 3 pramanas, from Sruti 3 and from Smriti 3. And then 3 or 4 examples from the behavior and lives of saintly people in the past, and 3 or 4 examples from the current acharyas also. So I've been taking notes even right up till last night. When I sleep, I have a flashlight and a pen and paper next to my bed. So, oh, I got an idea. I remembered a story, and actually, I'll start from the one I last remember. I got notes here all over. What I remember, I had met and spent a few weeks with Bhakti Hriday Vindamaraj. And he had told me, I mentioned several things, that he preached in Germany, and he met Hitler. And he told it to me that he saw Hitler way down the hallway, pacing furiously back and forth. He looked up and saw him and shook his hand and spoke a little bit, and then turned him over to, he said, some secretary. That secretary was Joseph Goebbels. And Vindamaraj convinced him that we are the real Aryans, because Hitler was very, very enthusiastic to try and get some authority for his Aryan version, which was not very accurate. But he also said that so Goebbels said, well, you can give lectures here, but at every beginning and end of every lecture, you have to say Heil Hitler. He says, okay. And he was kept in a guest house run by a German family. He said the organization was amazing. Everyone had cards on when to go to the lectures and assemble. He could assemble thousands of people in 5 minutes. But he also mentioned that after that time in Germany, he went to a Christian, Catholic monastery and stayed there a few days. And at the end of that time, the abbot asked him, what do you think of our monastery? And Vindamaraj said, I think it's a house of ghosts. Your monks are walking around in black, all silently moving around. In my ashram, someone's yelling, someone's singing, someone's crying, someone's cooking, somebody's working. There's activity going on. I said, don't feel bad, but I feel like this is some house of ghosts. Krishnadas Babaji would also come through and stay with Vindamaraj for a while. He's a great story. One time, Krishnadas Babaji was singing a very intimate Sanskrit song in Vindamaraj's temple, which was not fit for neophytes to hear. And Vindamaraj came down and told him, no, do not sing that. Even though it's Sanskrit, Bengali is really 80% Sanskrit. The brahmacharis here and others will know. And so he stopped. Now, I told this to Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. I said one time Babaji was singing a high song in Vindamaraj's temple, and Vindamaraj stopped him. And Sridhar Maharaj said, Babaji Maharaj can be naughty. He said like that. So that was very amazing. When I came to Sridhar Maharaj, I'm saying this all out of order. When I first came to Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada, and I was sent to go to him by Srila Prabhupada in a letter that's kind of well known now, that you need a Shiksha Guru. I can only recommend my godbrother Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. His title is Deva Goswami. Deva Goswami means he can give Shiksha to demigods. So I had met him at his Yasasana a year before, and I came to him. And when I came to him again, he told me, we have a house across the road you can stay in. And he reached under his chair and took out the daily Panjika, the Navadvip Panjika, the almanac, and said, you can go right now or wait an hour and a half, because you're going to be going east, and it's not a good time in a few minutes, so wait and then go to the travel to begin something at a more auspicious time. And you'll need a few things, and you'll need 2 chairs. I said, no, I don't need 2 chairs. I can sit on the bed. He says, the chairs are not for you. If any gentlemen come to visit you, you must receive them properly. So I got 2 chairs. And another memory that came to me about, and Shamarani Devi Didi will tell this also. when Shamarani was painting in 1966, she was painting the first Vishnus as Paramatma, and she came to, I was cooking so I could hear everything. And she came to Prabhupada's room and said, how should I paint Vishnu? You say I'm painting Vishnu as Paramatma. You have explained that Paramatma is seated in everyone's heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesharjuna tishtati, is situated in everyone. So what position should I paint him? Is he standing or sitting position? And Prabhupada says, oh, that takes many lifetimes of meditation to realize. And so she kind of walked away disappointed. Before she got to the door, Prabhupada said, he's standing. So this is thousands of years of meditation just spoken. This is the power and of Guru Shakti to save you all of that time. German monastery, Shamarani is. So I had met Prabhupada. I was in Mayavadi reading, because my father had spent time in World War II, was stationed in Japan. So he saw that even people, and they were mostly in Buddhist and maybe Shinto religion, but not people of the Western, people of the book. And so he noticed that even under terrible tragedy, he came just at the end of the war. He didn't have to go into combat, but he saw people who were devastated by war who were still very happy. They had peace of mind. And then when he came back and started a family, it was full of anxieties. And so he was searching for peace of mind. So he thought of the East. So in our house, we had books of Buddhism and Upanishads and Gita. I had not a bad translation by Theosophical Society. So I had that going in my mind. So I had really no interest in school. But that was it. Very, because Mayavadi, you said the slogan of Shankaracharya is Jagan Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya Jiva Brahmanaiva Napara. The Jiva and Brahman are non-different, and this world is false. So I didn't really care about anything in this world, even though I had to study it, and that was a dreadful time. So the intellect, and this is described, and Prabhupada explained this exactly word for word as is in Jaiva Dharma, that the mind, to understand spirit, the mind and the intelligence are essentially material substances, so they cannot reach and capture the things which are beyond the material substance. This guy goes to a psychiatrist. He says, the psychiatrist says, tell me about your dreams. He says, I can't, they're out of focus. I can't see them clearly. So the psychiatrist says, okay, tonight when you go to sleep, put your glasses on. That's why it's a joke, because your glasses are not going to help you see the mind and intelligence. So similarly, the mind and intelligence being material substances, you can't understand. So Shankaracharya Mayavadi says, well, so you think intellectually makes sense. Intellectually, if God is spread all over, then so am I. Jiva Brahmanaiva Napara. We're not different from it. So why am I suffering? Why do I still have to go to school and get a job? I don't have to work so hard and save up money to buy things. So there must be something wrong here. If God is spread all over, then intellectually, he must lose his individuality also. So that was my first question to Prabhupada. If God is all pervasive, yes. So Krishna is in me too, yes. Then why do we have the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is worshipable? And why bhakti then? He said, yes, God is It is, and he gave many, many examples of the sun disk, the sun shine, and the sun planet. So that it is like that. The sun is in the sky, millions of miles away. Not as far as the moon, but millions of miles away. That comes in the 5th canto. But the sun is in the sky, yes, yes. And if you have pots, many, many vessels of water, you'll see the sun disk in every one. If you take away that water or mirrors, you don't see it. It's unmanifest, but as soon as you bring a mirror, a clean mirror, Chaito Darpanamarjanam, he gave that. If your mirror is clean, then you will see the reflection of the sun everywhere. And if you see the reflection, you're going to say, oh, it's from there. But then said, this is why the world is suffering. Either God, like George Carlin says, God is some invisible man far, far away with these 10 rules. And if you break them, you go to hell and burn. And he always needs money. Or, and you know, I thought, what if God gave Moses the 10 suggestions? That would be bhakti. But he doesn't. They're not fit for that yet. So he gave commandments. Thou shalt do, thou shalt not. And that is Vaidhi Bhakti, very strict. And that is the method. And there's some Ananda in there to follow. There are actually 613 commandments that Orthodox Jews want to follow precisely. And there's some Ananda in accomplishing that. And our Vedic Vaidhi Bhakti also, you know, I never missed a Ekadasi, I never broke Ekadasi, I never missed a Mangalarati, I always chanted 67 rounds a day. There's some feeling of having accomplished these. But if Krishna says, I want you to destroy this whole army, well, that's not the Vaidhi Bhakti, that's not the Varnashram Dharma. That's not, so Arjuna pretends, and it's a vila to be confused over these ideas. What do you mean? You're saying action and no action? If there's any action, there's going to be a reaction, and yet you're asking me to engage in this bloody warfare. Actions done on my, so the karma kandya is then broken. Krishna conscious activities is not karma. There is a superstition going around. Guru takes your karma. I want to discuss this in another form, conference maybe. There's a superstition here. Guru takes your karma. I said, what do you mean if you kill somebody, Prabhupada goes to jail? You know, but this is some idea. They put 3 things together and going off here, but we fell from Vaikuntha. That means I'm an avatar. Varnashram Dharma means I can be a karmi. And Guru takes your karma, which means I can sin. I'm free to sin. I can put these 3 things together. I quoted George Bernard Shaw, says, a convert always brings his new adopted religion down or even lower than the one he left. So this is there. Now, if you can't do that, many times this comes to the 12th chapter of Gita, where Krishna gives concessions. Surrender to me. From the 8th verse of 12th chapter, Gita, Krishna, surrender to me completely. If you can't do that, then do Vaidhi Bhakti. If you can't do that, then work for me. If you can't do that, then for those people, that's Varnashram Dharma. Do auspicious activities. And then by doing auspicious, you'll probably start to come in contact with devotees. All of the Vaidhis and all of the Varnashram Dharmas for all the castes and Varnas and ashrams is to go to holy places. Why? Because there are devotees there, and you will hear from them to get sadhu sangha. So Prabhupada gave this example of the sun and Paramatma and Jyoti. There's Brahma Jyoti, there's Paramatma, and there's Bhagavan. And I came out of, and Prabhupada, so I left, I said, thank you. And Prabhupada says, I appreciate this question. He just answered the answer to the world's problems, like matter of fact, just by telling me. The same way he just told Shamarani Didi, the Paramatma is in a standing position. He just told me. Secret of the whole universe. So I said, we got to tell people about this. And that's why. Why did I become a devotee? That's why. Someone once asked me, what was the one high point of your time with Prabhupada? I said, yes, there was one. There was one moment that lasted 11 years. And we've all probably experienced this when you have your association with your gurus. There are so many disciples of different Vaishnavas here online. You know, when you're there, time stops. Time doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you don't care about what age you are or what. My birthday is in March, and that was always around Gaur Purnima. And for 3-4 years, I didn't remember my birthday because we were busy with that. The birthday is the birth of this body. So time stops. It was not one moment or one thing better than another. When offers Prabhupada, one time Prabhupada said to, yes, I'll start this way. One of the presidents of the temple asked Prabhupada, how do I manage these? Prabhupada says, you have to be very strict. You have to be very liberal. So we were making rasgullas. Prabhupada showed us how to make rasgullas. And they kept breaking up in the boiling water. So Prabhupada said, put a little cornstarch, and then they held together. A few days, so I made a big pot of them. And a few days later, Prabhupada said, Acyutananda, bring me 2 rasgullas. I said, yes. I said, oh, today's Ekadasi. And we put, a pinch of cornstarch in the, and this is 1966 America, talking to devotees, talking to foreigners who didn't know from Varnashram or any ashram. I said, today's Ekadasi, we put cornstarch. He says, bring me 2 rasgullas. So there's a liberal. Oh yeah, while we're on the subject of rasgullas, I invented, and my service to humanity is I invented Gulab Jamun process. They were also always breaking up, and milk is very expensive to convert it into cheese. And I said, wait a minute. So some idea came up from Antaryami, and I said, wait a minute, powdered milk is milk solids. So what if we don't make powdered milk? We use less water and we make powdered milk dough. And it worked, and it's been like that for 57 years. And so every time you have a rasgulla made out of powdered milk, it's from me. And you all owe me for that. Good. Yes. Antaryami. I told this story. I'm repeating what I also said in last month, but I'll repeat it anyway. When you learn some more and more, then also the Akhanda Guru comes. The Samara, Akhanda Guru starts from Balaram, but Samasta Guru, you start to get a Vaishnav darshan, a vision of things, because we were very strong on it. Can you see God? And Prabhupada would say, you want to see Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna. This is Madhyam Adhikari vision. So one time I was remembering the verse, this body is like a dress. We change our dress, and the soul is eternally moving on through these different dresses. As they get old, we cast them off, take new. So I was in a Goodwill store where they sell used clothing. And I had that verse in my mind, oh, dressing. And I passed by the the dressing rooms, the changing rooms, where they change clothes. I thought, yeah, Vasang Singh is coming together here. I'm getting more of some darshan. And I passed by one of the dressing rooms, and I heard from inside someone was probably trying on something that didn't fit well. And I heard from inside, gee, I wish I didn't have this body. And I wanted to knock on the door and say, you have no idea what you just said. And how true. And there was the changing room, Vasang said, so also it was very important to me. I was reading the Upanishads, and the Ramakrishna Mission, they called also their branch was called the Vedanta Society. Anyway, it was all Mayavada. So, but they would mention Vedanta. That term would come up in the Mayavadi books, that it was the highest knowledge, the ultimate conclusion. And so when I came to first time I came to 26 2nd Avenue in 1966, there was a card in the window, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. I said, Vedanta is there. There's this word Vedanta. I like this. This is something I've been searching for, because there was no answer in the Mayavadi versions. That term, Vedanta, there's a story how that came about. After Bhaktisiddhanta's disappearance, there was, I met with a few times with Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj. I would say he was a smooth operator. Tirtha Maharaj was a one-man GBC for the Gaudiya mission. He was, for a while, a station master of the railroad, which is a very important position under British Raj. You understand that gold and mail and army and armed forces travel by railroad. So to be a station master, very important, a qualified, competent person. And he became the manager. But secretly, he had been clandestine, putting the yoga pit and properties into a trust in his name and the name of his brother and son. So after Bhakti said, there's also, I found a copy, someone sent me a copy of, and Prabhupada also told me, because he was discussing this with some lawyers, that Bhaktisiddhanta did become very ill and wrote a will, more or less leaving everything in charge of Kunja Babu, that was his name then, Grihastha name, and then later Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj. So, but then he did get better, and Prabhupada would a letter like that be considered a will? Because Tirtha Maharaj used that to say, here is evidence that I am the successor, because I'm sitting in the yoga pit, the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the other god brothers then thereafter would come to the yoga pit, and Tirtha Maharaj more or less said, get off my land. Prabhupada was telling me all this, and he said what I'm going to say. Now, I shouldn't say this, but it is coming. You should know. So there were many court cases going on for some years, and Sripad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj came to Sridhar Maharaj, and Sridhar Maharaj said, let us stop this fighting in court. We're not going to win. Tirtha Maharaj also had his brother or son educated in London, and they were barristers. A barrister, no muktir or lawyer in India a judge will never go on the side of a Indian lawyer against a London trained barrister. So he'd be winning all the time. So Sridhar Maharaj said, let's stop this. We start our own mutts. Tirtha Maharaj even suggested, let us make Bhaktisiddhanta the last initiating acharyas. Sridhar Maharaj said, well, we're not Sikhs. You know, after the 10th guru, after Guru Nanak, they just said, that was Guru Govinda Singh, they decided no more gurus, we just worship the book. And that is a natural diversion to have if there are no qualified gurus. There is a group now who we call them Ritwiks. They call themselves Prabhupada. No, we just the books, but they're very strong, by the way, of protecting Prabhupada's original versions. So Sri Maharaj said, let us start our own. We're not Sikhs, we can start our own missions. And Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj said, I want to start a sampradaya of missionary sannyasis, all named Bhakti Siddhanta Narayan Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta Vaman Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta. And Sri Maharaj said, well, that is the name of our guru. Let's think of something else. So they decided Bhakti Vedanta, because the Ramakrishna mission was very strong then, telling people that their version is Vedanta, but actually it was secular socialism, completely mundane socialism in the dress of sannyasis. They were smoking cigarettes, and we called them the Murgi mission. Murgi means chicken. They were not vegetarian. They had chicken. There's a devotee here went to, when he was a boy, he went to Ramakrishna schools, and they opened schools and hospitals and mundane social services. He said in the Ramakrishna school, every Friday was chicken. I don't want to talk about that, but so this was being presented as Vedanta, the Vedanta Society. So over this discussion in the 1940s, our Prabhupada got the title Bhakti Vedanta. If it was Bhakti Siddhanta, I would have interpreted it, that means religious principles. But Vedanta was there, so that was very, very important. Over a discussion that happened decades before. The Prabhupada came. You want to hear what sometimes I say, Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti is in bad health, a congenital heart condition. Prabhupada still, at the age of 70, gets on a rusty boat to America, driven by the desire and the order of his spiritual master. That's a Raganuga. The feeling is in the first year, there's a great book called The Beginning, and it was Prabhupada's 1965 diary. And it's not in that book, but Prabhupada wrote to Sri Maharaj, I don't think I'm going to make any success here in America. The people are dirty and they're rude and you cannot meet gentlemen. Sri Maharaj wrote back, start a mission in America or die there. Others have also in these Zoom conferences spoke how Prabhupada had to live on the Bowery in the worst neighborhood. Prabhupada looked at me and said, I had to sleep next to these hippie couples, and sometimes they were not sleeping. Can you imagine? In the refrigerator, his food was next to their non-vegetarian thing. He put up with it. And then first he met was Mukunda, and then Hayagriva and others. And slowly, slowly, the rest is history. Yeah. I'm skipping around in time because there's no time where we're going. Time is eternal. Oh, Bhaktisiddhanta also mentioned. You've heard this. Sometimes he said, tear out the marble in the temple, sell the marble from the temple, and print books. The Vani is more important than Archanam. Turns out, and Sripad Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj told me this, that actually Bhaktisiddhanta built the Baghbazar marble temple with inferior cement so that if someday we had to tear it out, it wouldn't break them, it would come out easily. And he even planned it that way. Amazing. The Achinta-Bheda-Bhed relationship of his disciple and guru. Achinta-Bheda-Bhed relationship is everywhere. but with guru to disciple comes up. In the beginning, we were printing the Back to Godhead, first copies of Back to Godhead magazine. And after a few issues, we asked Prabhupada to, would you write an article? He said, are all your articles based on what you have heard from me? He said, yes. He says, then I write all the articles. So this is the Acyutananda relationship we have. Yeah, I'll give this example again, back to Parampara and Pramana, Sadhu Shastra Guru. There are two fancy words, exegesis and isogesis. Exegesis means to draw out the meaning of a text, of what it, Bhagavad Gita as it is. I converted some Mayavadis, one sannyasi even, boasting, and I put his nose into the Mayavadis love this verse, Bhagavad Gita 7, chapter verse 24. Avyaktam vyaktimapanam manyante mama buddhaya. I think they know the real meaning, and then they want to twist it. Abhyakta means unmanifest, which they then say is impersonal. Vyaktimapanam becomes manifest, but then they can't really figure out the rest of mama manyante mama buddhaya. So I had this Mayavadi. I said, look at this verse. Abhyaktam vyaktimapanam manyante mama buddhaya. What is it? Oh, it means he's, no. Just put your face in it. And what is this saying to you by Krishna's saying? That the impersonal, if you think that something formless and nirakar, nirgun, nirbishesh becomes saguna, mama buddhaya, you have no intelligence. He says, yes. What do you mean, yes? As you have said, yeah. That's exegesis. Drawing out the meaning. That isogesis is putting in your own meaning. Prabhupada was furious over that. You cannot take a Bhagavad Gita because it's so well known and put your own philosophy onto it. Example is from the Talmud, by the way. Example is a man is walking in the woods and he sees arrows in the trees. All of them in a yellow target, bullseye. Then he sees the man with the bow and arrow. Says, wow, you're a great shot. You hit the bullseye in all those trees. He says, well, I shoot arrows any way I can, and some of them hit the trees, and the ones that hit the trees, I paint a yellow target around the arrow. But that's what they do. Because nobody would read if they wrote their own book. So they'd say, okay, I'll tag my name and make a version of Bhagavad Gita. I was furious about that. Another thing Prabhupada didn't like, some professors, well, nobody has seen God. You cannot say that. You have not seen. You don't know anyone who has seen, but we have known people who have seen. You cannot say no one has seen because you have not seen. His lip was quivering. So, is his personality coming on this? Yeah. Prabhupada was, you don't have this problem anymore, but in 1966, and Prabhupada said to me, the cook does not have to wash the dishes. And it's a occupational thing, because sometimes you're cooking and say, gee, I'd like to use that big pot, but I don't want to have to clean it. So it's a conflict of occupational duty. So you don't have this problem, but it was very hard to get people to wash the pots in 26-second heavy. I know you're all very enthusiastic now all over the world to wash the dishes, and you have dishwashing machines, even then, but that was very hard. So nobody, I said, Prabhupada, every day, every week, the kitchen's full of dirty pots, and I'm cleaning them anyway. But so Prabhupada called us all in to his room. He says, okay, no one person has to do the dishes. Everyone take one day. And there was some silence. Finally, someone said, I'll do Monday. And there was a pause, and someone said, I'll do Wednesday. And there was a pause, and someone said, I'll do Sunday. And then there was more pause. Prabhupada said, I will take Thursday. So then all the hands went up, and we got dishwashers. I was having a friendly Vaishnav argument with, he was the landlord of our Albert Road place. He was a senior, older gentleman, and I said, well, Mahaprabhu is more than Krishna. He was saying, no, Krishna, Mahaprabhu is Krishna. So we went back and forth like that. I said, go, let's take it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, we speak in Bengali. Ine bolchen je Krishna upre, ami bolchen je Chaitanya Mahaprabhu upre. Who is more, Krishna or Mahaprabhu? Prabhupada said, Radha. That settled it. Okay. Oh boy. Page 2. Oh. Prabhupada really never manifested anything supernatural, but it was told to me that devotee took Prabhupada into a big department store once. And when they were leaving, there was a revolving door in the middle, leaving, and 2 swinging doors, all glass, on either side. And some man with a lot of bags got into the revolving door. Prabhupada got in behind him in the next section of the revolving door. There are 4 sections, And then the man stopped. And the revolving door stopped, and Prabhupada was trapped in his section. So the disciple goes around the swinging door, goes out to the street, and Prabhupada is standing there with his cane. And the man with the bags is still in the revolving door. I said, so how did Prabhupada get past him and out into the street? He says, I don't know. So something happened there. In Mayapur, there were drainage, irrigation ditches all over. I used to have to take a running leap, and we were walking through with Prabhupada, and he took one step. It reminded me of Vaman Avatar. He took one step and got across. Amazing. Okay. So Prabhupada was working very, very. We didn't know when, because Prabhupada's often answer, what is Krishna consciousness? It is the unconditional state of consciousness. So we didn't know if he felt anything, or if he was immune, or if he was anesthetized from everything that he felt. He was working hard. He would type with 2 fingers till late, working so hard. So he had this is important. He didn't have a stroke. A stroke is a brain problem. He had a heart, and it was just a palpitation. It was not a heart attack where you collapse in pain, but his heart was fluttering, fibrillating. So he asked me to, he was lying this way, and he said, go like this over his chest, and he said, stay here in the next room in 26 2nd Avenue. And he called me in two times later that night to do this. And then we called doctors, and then by mistake, we took him to a hospital where they kept giving him injections. And one day, he didn't like those needles. No. So one day the doctor came in and said, how are you feeling? Prabhupada grabs the doctor's arm, said, I am fine. I'm going home now. The doctor's jaw dropped. And you know that maybe the Sir Gargamuni and Brahmananda rescued. Prabhupada put him in the gurney and got him to the elevator, down and out. So Prabhupada decided that he must return to India, to Vrindavan, if he was coming to the end of his life, maybe. And I had to leave America because I was going to be sent to Vietnam. So I said, well, of all the kind of, many Americans went to Canada. I said, when am I going to go to Canada? I'm going to go to India. I'm going to go to Vrindavan. and continue being with Prabhupada. And that Prabhupada name wasn't there yet, that was Swamiji. So Prabhupada was leaving that June of 67, and I had visa and ticket to go in September later, 3 months later that year. Now, we never asked Prabhupada for any kind of mystical prophecies, but I asked Prabhupada, will I make it to Vrindavan later? And he looked at me and said, we will meet again in Braja, rest assured. But he didn't mean India. So, but I did get to India. I got off the plane and then took, it was September, the height of the rainy season. Is it raining there now? People know. And also someone sent a chat from Krishna Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat on Satish Mukherjee wrote, is it the height of Kali Puja now in Calcutta? But I came to Mathura in 67 and got to the Keshavji Gaudiya Mat, September 67. And I went upstairs, and there, the first time I meet, and we calculated he was 47 years old, Sripad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And I think right then I got cured of Kanishta, to only accept the form of the Guru, because here's another form, a young man, a thin man, a graceful man with tilak and neck beads and chapamala. I thought, just like in New York. I said, what am I thinking? This is where it all came from. Narayan Maharaj says, you will make tilak. Because he wanted to see if I knew anything. And I said, yes, tilak. And he said, we'll go and see Guru Maharaj. And I didn't know who Guru Maharaj meant, but we went through the temple to Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj's room. And this was the last year of his time in this world. So he was very ill. But we sat below his bed, and he got up, and I'll always remember he was very tall. And he just sat up in bed, and his head looked like a rising moon. And he looked down to me and said, there are two kinds of sounds, material sound and Vaikuntha sounds. When we make material sounds, we get material things. And when we make Vaikuntha sounds, we get Vaikuntha things. And he just said that much. Then he spoke more to Narayan Maharaj, and then we left. And I was also told we did come back. Acyutananda left with Prabhupada, so he was there also. He took sannyas before me. And we also did a kirtan for Keshav Maharaj also. Acyutananda went right back to the West. And so I had Prabhupada to myself from that September till December of 67. He returned to the West. His health got better from being treated by Ayurvedic. I used to make his trifla. Trifla is 3 fruits, and he had a prescription for the right quantity and the right percentages of the 3 fruits. And I would soak them in this. He had a marble dish, and I would soak them in the morning, and he would drink the water at night. And he made a terrible face. I said, how does it taste? He said, horrible. And his health got better. So many people would come to visit him. And I also saw Prabhupada's personalities also. There was a gentleman that would come and speak with Prabhupada for hours every day. And I said, Prabhupada, is he one of your god brothers? He says, no. And a few days later, he'd come, and I said, is he a Kaviraj? Is he one of the doctors? He said, no. And a few days further, I said, well, who is that man? He says, he's my friend. So Prabhupada had friends. He would not be preaching to him. He was hearing about political situation than in India from that. Many even members of parliament came to visit Prabhupada also and told them things. And all I remember hearing was chi, 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 chi. It means, oh, no, 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 just shame, shame, shame. There were some bad times happening in the political world in India at that time. Going to Mathura. So then I came from Mathura. Narayan Maharaj put me in a rickshaw with the brahmachari to Vrindavan, and I met again Prabhupada after a few months. And I took second initiation there in Radha Damodar Temple. Yeah, I'll tell the story. You've all seen that there are about 4 or 5 Radha Krishnas in Radha Damodar Temple. And that's a shanda. For those of you who know Yiddish, that's a shame. Prabhupada's friend, and I stayed with him for a few weeks, was Narendra Goswami. His brother was the Goswami of Radha Damodar Temple, because he come to his brother and said, he was a gambler, he was broke. He said, I don't have any money to support my family. Let me be the Goswami of Radha Damodar Temple. Okay, big mistake. So he goes to Radha Damodar Temple. Radha Damodar Temple was also in charge, registered under Radha Damodar Temple of Jiva Goswami, was also Bhugarva Goswami's temple, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and Shyamananda. And they had separate temples in other parts of Vrindavan. Well, yeah, his name was Gaurachand Goswami. He liked bidis. He's almost blind. And he sold those properties to people who said, we are not Goswamis, so we cannot maintain the seva of the deities. So he moved 3, 4 other deities all lined up next to, in a row, into Radha Damodar Temple and sold the properties off to pay debts and debts like that. Prabhupada had lent, this is so funny, Prabhupada told me to go to Gaurachand Goswami from Delhi to repay his debt. Prabhupada lent him about 3,000 rupees, which in the 60s, that's like $3,000. And he did that because he could hold that over his head forever, because he knew he would never repay. So when you go into Vrindavan and ask Gaurachand to pay it back, and Gaurachand said, I don't have a single pai. And I told that to Prabhupada. Prabhupada laughed. That's okay. The rent for those rooms, there was the porch, Prabhupada's room, an inner porch, and the kitchen. Rent was 5 rupees a month. Because really, which was even more. He could have lived there for free and said, yeah, pay me back. But he couldn't pay. So how did I get to this? Oh, yeah. So Prabhupada got his health back, and many, many letters came from the independent preachings of Shyam Sundar Prabhu, Mukunda Prabhu, Gurudas, and their wives. And they were starting in San Francisco and eventually London. And so many letters came. Prabhupada presented those letters and got another visa to return to America in 67 or 68 January, leaving me in Radha Damodar Temple and the Chippiwada, what he called his office. But yes, I'll start it this way. In Krishna, in Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada's summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I once tried to crunch the numbers, and I think Prabhupada produced about 100 pages of literature a week. So this is astonishing. I tried to add up so in first copy of Nectar of Devotion came to me, and it's Krishna's qualities. One of his qualities is gravity. I looked up from the book. I said, Krishna is always dancing. What do you mean gravity, meaning serious? I look back at the book. Someone who is grave is someone who you do not know what his plans will be. I always cringe when I heard during Prabhupada's time, well, what Prabhupada really means, don't you say. You don't know what he really means. You don't know even what he's saying, what he really means. And that reminds me, so Prabhupada in Calcutta said, where's Devananda Swami? And the secretary said, Devananda's washing his dhoti. Prabhupada starts to laugh and laugh and laugh. He's slapping the Devananda's washing his dhoti. And it wasn't me, but the secretary just starts to laugh along with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says, you never know why I laugh. Stuff like that. So one day in Vrindavan, Prabhupada tells me, pack up, we're going to Calcutta and Navadvip to celebrate the Vyas Puja of one of my godbrothers, Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj. Boom, we're off. So we get on the long train and we arrive in Calcutta in September this month. And yeah, I'm shouting out to anyone who's there. We arrive, it's the height of Kali Puja, which is a month long, and every day is bigger than Christmas in America, for a month. On every corner, and right on the side of the Chaitanya Gaudiya Mutt, there was also a huge Durga Murti, which are temporary. They're made out of first a wooden frame, covered by straw, and then covered by smooth mud, and then beautifully painted, realistic face of Kali Ma, Durga, and some Dasa Mahavidyas. There are 10 other expansions of Durga Ma. And so I had asked Prabhupada, well, what is this? So Prabhupada explained the one image of Durga who is killing Maheshasura. He even sang, Prabhupada loved rhythm. And it's called Nada Brahma, means the influence of spiritual through sound, and there's also Tal Brahma. Rhythm will also invoke our spiritual life consciousness. The Prabhupada loved rhythm. He played mridanga, and he started saying Jai. Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini Ramyaka Paradini Sahila Sudi. And I said, no, don't sing about Kali. But he loved it. He knew the Kali, that Durga song of Mahishasura, killing the buffalo Asura. And he was describing this image of Durga riding on the lion. We know Divyara Brindaranya Kalpatramada Sriman Ratnangara Singhasana Sto. Radha and Krishna surrounded by Brinda, surrounded by Tulsi trees all over, Kalpa Vriksha trees sitting on the Singhasana. The Durga version, the Shakta version is, who is sitting, Singhasana means the lion throne. But the image of Durga, the perverted shadow of Vaikuntha here in this material world, this Mahamaya, she's sitting on a lion. Singhasana. Sri Chakraraja Singhasaneshwari. She's sitting on the lion. That's her Vahana. And she's with the Trishul, the three Adhyatmik, Adhibhautik, Adhidaivik suffering, tapasyas, suffering, inflicting the three miseries onto the buffalo demon, who then comes out as his demon form with usually a big black mustache, Asura. So this is the living entities who are always changing their bodies, being afflicted by Durga Ma, by the threefold suffering. That is the image that is presented to a worshipable. And so what about Kali? Kali is standing on Shiva. He's lying down. It's a long story. I'll make it longer, but no, I'll make it. So many versions. In many different kalpas, these things happen. But in this kalpa, there was a sacrifice, and Daksha insults Shiva, and Sati, Parvati, cannot stand it, and she jumps into the sacrificial fire. Shiva hears about this, and he comes to rescue the remains of Sati, Parvati, Himavati, so many names, and puts the remains of her body on his shoulder and starts the Tandava, destruction of the universe dance. Vishnu, the demigods all go. You know, when the demigods approach Vishnu, only the major demigods see him. Brahma, Indra, maybe Agni, maybe Surya. Other demigods who also are there only see light. That's another version to go through. But so they go to Vishnu, stop, he's going to destroy everything. So Vishnu takes his chakra and breaks up the body of Sati, Durgama, Parvati, and 52 pieces, some say 54 pieces, fall to this world. One of them, her finger, is in Calcutta, Kaligat. That's where the name comes from. And that finger, and we'll jump ahead, Sripad, Bhaktivigyan Bharati Maharaj told me the story of this finger. Oh boy. The Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Madhava Maharaj is just a few steps from the tram line in Calcutta, and beyond that is Kali Ghat, the Kali temple in Calcutta, down with steps going down to the Ganges. There it's called the Hooghly at that stage. And we said, let's go and see. It was Kali Puja on another in about 1969. And we went with some brahmacharis, and Bharati Maharaj and I were friends then. And we went, and fortunately we were wearing wooden padukas, clogs. Madhav Maharaj's own clogs, they were wooden shoes and very nice looking, but they were red rubber bicycle inner tube straps. They looked very nice. But we all went over, let's see what's happening, because at that night was the night when thousands of goats are brought. Even wealthy Hindus will bring thousands of goats to be sacrificed to Mother Goddess. And we had a hurricane, that's the hurricane, is a version of the kerosene lamp, and our shoes were sticking in the mud, and we held the lantern down, and it was bloody mud. And we were far from the temple, but there was just blood all over, goat's blood, I hope. So we said, we better go. So I said, what is this? He says, yes, on the dark moon night of this month, September, is Kali Puja, and many people bring their goats. Wealthy people will bring hundreds of goats to be sacrificed. Behind the temple, there's a wooden fork, looks like that. That's where the head goes, and boom. So what is this? It says, yes, there is a chest in the temple, and there are 12, Bharati Maharaj is telling me this. There are 12 locks on hinges on this box. Inside is the finger of Mother Goddess that fell. Other parts are, one important part is Bimala Devi in Jagannath Puri, and other pieces are elsewhere. 54 yoga peats, Kali peats, Shakti peats, peat meaning the establishment. And on this night, there are 12 Brahmins who come. These are Kali Shakti Brahmins, come with 12 keys, and they open it and they blindfold themselves, because if you see this finger, you will either go blind, go mad, or die. So they blindfold themselves, and each one opens their lock with the 12 keys. They open it up and unwrap this finger and do Abhishek to that finger, wrap it up, put it back, lock it up until next year. flashback. So I'm asking Prabhupada, what is this image? Because people with tears in their eyes are going, Mother, Mother Goddess. And there's Kali, naked with a garland of skulls and a skirt of severed arms and blood. In another battle, Prabhupada then explained, in another battle, there was a Rakta Asura. Rakta means blood. Every time you cut this Asura, every time a drop of his blood hits the ground, 10,000 more Raktasuras come up. So pretty soon there were millions of Raktasuras. Every time you kill any one of them, and a drop of their blood hits the ground, and 1,000 more. So this is unfair. The demigods go to Shiva. Your wife is fond of blood. Can she help us to get rid of this blood Asura? And so Mother Kali comes and she spreads her tongue over the battlefield and sucks up all their blood to the bone. And that's the end of but now she's drunk on blood. And she turns to the demigods and starts approaching them. Shiva, Shiva, save us. So Shiva lies down in her path. She steps on Shiva and stops. I have stepped on my husband. And that's the snapshot. That's that moment when the destructive Shakti is stopped. And that is the worshipable image that we see. And there are many, many more. So I asked Prabhupada, well, the Western religions have one almighty God, and here they're worshiping so many different forms of God. Which one is superior? He said the Kali Bhakta is superior. Why? Because they're in the Vedic system. And then he said, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmana. Very quickly they will become righteous. There's another version of this by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It may come up on the 18th. I'm really looking forward to that. But very quickly they will become righteous because they're in the Vedic system. Understand, only the Guru can say should, try. Prabhupada once said, my Guru Maharaj never gave orders. He said, if you do like this, I'll be pleased, or Krishna will be pleased. That means it's up to the devotee my Guru wants me to do this. He hasn't ordered me, but it's up to me to understand that he wants this done. If it's an order, like I was saying, the 10 commandments versus the 10 suggestions, the Guru gives suggestions. And it's up to the devotee. In a few months, we'll have Damodar. This is the purport of Damodar, Mother Yasoda's 2-finger short robes. One is the endeavor of the devotee, and the other is the kripa of Bhagavan to come together. There are 2 versions in Ramanuja Sampradaya. The kitten version and the mother monkey version. One sect says, so much to tell. One sect says, we're completely dependent on the mercy of Bhagavan. Like the kitten is picked up by the mother, the kitten does nothing. The mother does all the work. And another sect is called the mother monkey version. The baby monkey holds on to the mother monkey. The mother monkey doesn't do anything. So it's all us. So we say both. There's the endeavor of the devotee, Krishna Anushilanam, and then also Krishna will come together with that. How did I come to this subject? So, where was I? So, also, by the way, for public service, there are 2 versions, sects in Ramanuja Sampradaya. The ones who have the tilak above their nose, they are broad-minded Vaishnavas. The ones that have a peat on the nose and it's very squared off, they're very caste-minded. And they have, when I was there, they did not accept foreigners. By the way, there's also Madhvacharya also established another mutt further inland called Uttaradi Mutt. they are also, when I was there in the 70s, it may not be now, but the Acharya at that time said, there are two, like Madhva, there are two kinds of jivas. Those born in our families, in Uttaradimat families, and Rakshasas. So he didn't like us. I had a little debate with him. So I said, what you're doing is you're reversing the terrible, I know you're not going to like this, but Rakshasin Kalimasukta Jayanti Brahmayonishu, the not all Brahmins, but Rakshasas in Kali Yuga get born in Brahmin families. You're reversing it, saying everybody else is a Rakshasa. But fortunately, the people there were on our side. So that's a Kali Puja happened then. Chipram Bhavati Dharma. So then we met with the Malik family. By the way, when we were in 26 Second Avenue, this is a copy of the first Sriba Sangan. Is that good? And the peak. This is before Shamarani fixed it up a little because this floor is not in perspective. But this one, we don't know who the artist was. But when Prabhupada started Kirtan, we would be wailing Kirtan, and Prabhupada was describing Sriba Sangan Kirtans, which are non-different than Braja Krishna, Ras Lila, and that I always keep that memory. No. So we're in Calcutta and the Kali Puja. By the way, it's so strange. The illusory energy was very strong there because at that time, the favorite movie in Calcutta was The Sound of Music, and they were playing that. So you would see the image of Kali and Durga and Chinnamasta, the 10 Mahavidyas of different forms of Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic Durga expansions, and blasting on big loudspeakers was Julie Andrews singing "Do a Deer." So I mean, this was, I could put it together. This is the illusory energy happening here. One lady, Bengali lady, said she saw that movie 10 times. We met with the Malik family, and their deity was Govinda Deva brass deity. We served there. Prabhupada started kirtans there. And then we took the train up to Navadvip to see and attend to Bhakti Rakshak Sri Vindamaraj's Vyas Puja. They brought his chair down from the veranda down in front of the temple. Oh yeah, now I get to tell the greatest thing. One time, the Keshav Gaudiya Mutt was registered as a dharmshala so that there were no taxes. So the tax agent once came to Keshav Maharaj and said, you say this is a dharmshala for guests? Well, who are all these brahmacharis? They're all my guests. This is a dharmshala, no taxes. They can stay as long as they want. Also, Sripad Sridhar Deva Goswami had registered his property and temple in the name of his deities. You can do that in India, which means that the ownership is perpetual. So the Chaitanya Saraswat Mutt is registered in the name of the deities Gandharvika Giridhari. And he's named of that because he said it this way to me: we serve, this area of Koladweep is Sakshat Govardhan Hill in Krishna Lila. In Mahaprabhu Lila, this is Govardhan. We serve in Radhakund, Shamkund, but we don't live there. We live with the cowherd boys and girls around Govardhan. And then he said, rather in the slum quarter. We live there. He put it that way. In the slum quarter. So this politician came to Sri Vindamaraj and said, a couple cannot jointly own property in India. Sridhar Maharaj said, they're not married. So that's the end of that. Prabhupada spoke with Sridhar Maharaj privately, and Prabhupada asked me to go downstairs. They spoke privately. He came down after an hour or so, and I said, what did you speak about? And he said, if I told you, you would faint. You know, I'll say it again. I dared, so I was there about a year, and every day Brahmachari would come up and say, Guru Maharaj, we'll see you now. And I went up and he would speak for, I don't know how much time. Time stopped. But one day I dared ask Sridhar Maharaj, can you tell me what is my Guru Maharaj's rasa? He said, yes, I can tell you, but now I have to go inside, you go down. So I had to wait a whole day and night. Next day, Brahmachari calls, Guru Maharaj is calling, and he started lecturing, and I said, you were going to tell me what is Swami Maharaj's rasa. Oh, yes, he says. It must be Madhurya because of his attraction to Kirtan. Kirtan also means prachar. And he said, in another time, he said, I regard him as a Shakyavesh avatar. Over 3 days, he described to me the most significant parallel of the meeting at Kurukshetra, of the solar eclipse, the meeting of Radharani and Krishna there, the Samyogini meeting, and the parallel and the fulfillment of that. It begins like this. There's a confrontational atheistic question. Is Krishna all powerful? Yes. Can he make us a rock so heavy that he can't pick it up? That sounds like a question, but it's not. It's like, can God be stupid? You know, this is a silly question. Can God make a rock so heavy he can't pick it up? Yes. But then he's not all powerful. Then he'll pick it up. Purport. Krishna is expanding his energy and then measuring it, and expanding and measuring. Swarup Shakti, Radharani is always expanding. Krishna is always measuring. At the time of the Kurukshetra meeting, and when I first read it, I was kind of upset because Krishna meets with them and they request Krishna to come back to Vrindavan. You're all dressed up. You're the same Krishna, but you're dressed up as the Emperor Krishna of Dwarka. Is that a sword over there? You can't dance Ras Leela with a sword. Take off this and come back to Braj. And he says, now the Shakti has now exceeded his reciprocation. He cannot pick up this. He cannot. And he says, there's nothing I can give you. I have more demons to kill. I am responsible for this and that. I cannot. Please just be satisfied with your own glorious activities. And I said, what? That's all they get? So he is Rini. He is now Rini to the gopis forever until Ratha Yatra, when Mahaprabhu, and this is why, and this is when Sridhar Maharaj tells me, then he decided I must take on the bhava of Radharani Mahabhav, Rasaraj Mahabhav Duyak group. I have to measure this expansion of the Shakti. Therefore, that is the birth of Mahaprabhu, that Krishna must come Anarpita Chirinjaya. So then we know this, Mahaprabhu sees the temple of Nilachal as Dwarka, and the temple, small garden temple of Gundicha as Vrindavan, and he brings Krishna back to Braja. So all of that goes on. It's explained to me, and it took over 3 days for him to come to that. Why did I write that? Okay, page 3. That was page 3. Page 4. You got 12 more to go. What time is it? There's no time. Well, public service, the best Jiva Tattva, Prabhupada told us, we asked as many times, for days we pestered Prabhupada, well, how did we fall? How did we fall? Prabhupada finally blurted out, first of all, he said, you cannot conceive of this with material senses. And then finally he blurted, said, we are eternally fallen. And don't try to understand this with the material mind and intelligence. Get on with your realizations by sadhana. So I never, and then when Narayan Maharaj's Jaiva Dharma came out, it says, 14th chapter, says the same thing, word for word. Do not. So I never bothered to get up I never thought this would be discussed. I said, don't argue it, don't discuss it, don't debate it, don't speculate on it. So I never did, and I never acquired an arsenal of verses to debate or discuss. That was the answer for years. Don't ask. If you're drowning in the ocean and somebody throws you a line, you don't say, wait, how did I get here? You get out. That was Prabhupada's answer all the time. You're not realized. When you're realized, you will know. So I never bothered. But now this has become a thing. So some of the best devotees have written very good articles, long articles about Uttama Sloka and Dr. Satya Narayan Das Babaji and others. I want to have, but some of the best quotes, it's from Adi Leela chapter 5, the Nityananda chapter. From verse 40 on is Nityananda chapter, but chapter 5, verse 45, Shankarshan expansion up from Balaram is the shelter of the living entities. Nitya Siddhas are never called the living entities, jivas. And then verse 5 and 65, that the Mahavishnu then glances over the material world, impregnating the material Mahatattva with jivas. Prabhupada connected this to Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritimanti. Krishna, all Vishnu Tattvas have interchangeable senses. He can impregnate with his vision by gazing. And this, I got the idea from the Brahma Samhita in the first verses, 5 or 6 verses on it. It describes Mahavishnu gazing over the material world and shot from the beam of light from his brow of Vishnu. And Narayan Maharaj also said Mahavishnu is somewhat annoyed by being in the material association near Maya Nikote. He is next to it. So there are 2 lines in his brow there that he is near Tama, the tamasic influence. That's the only little concern, because he's upset over the conditioned souls who are eternally bahirmukh. We are eternally rebellious. So he gazes over, that's it. I get it now. They're reserved within Shankarshan and Vaikuntha. Were we with Krishna? Yes, we're with Krishna. Not in Leela, but conserved within the form of Vaikuntha Mahashankarshan, who then, with the Icha Shakti, desired to Krishrishti Lila, we're with Krishna's Lila in creating the material world, to give a chance for these Buddha Jivas like me, and spews them out in his vision. He just as, and this is, Bhaktisiddhanta says, there is no other words to use, but it is insemination, it is intercourse. As the father has sperm, does the father have a relationship with the sperm? No. It has to be given to the mother and then come out, now this is my child. And gets a chance to educate. And so I said, this is going on over and over again, is a reflection in everything that is created by mother and father, everything that has, this is going on. So by this vision, what is that vision? Shambhu is Sadashiva, is the vision. And what is the symbol? And it is symbolic. Shambhu means symbolic, is the Shiva. Lingam is the father and mother, womb, yoni, and lingam, combining to give a form to the Buddha Jivas to come and get a chance. And then Narayan Maharaj says, most of them look up immediately and go into Vaikuntha. No guru, no sadhana necessary. But I look down. Maya Nikata Gelo, Bhogavan Chakori. Prema Vivarta says, because we're near Maya, we look upon Maya with the eternal desire to enjoy it, and we look upon, because we are near Maya. The Nityasiddhas in Vaikuntha are not near Maya at all. So what do you mean Maya Nikata? We're near Maya. We see the wonderful displays of the illusory energy and go, ooh, nice. But there are rules here. You want to enjoy, there will be equal suffering. Prabhupada many times gives the example of prison, how this world is a prison house. Krishna says, oh, but Krishna says everyone follows my path. So all paths are the same. No, there's the path, there's the Dharma in Braja, there's the Dharma in Vaikuntha, and then there's the Dharma in the material world, three kinds of Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. There are rules here, just like in your prison house. There is the free citizens, and the guilty citizens are in jail. The jail is also, the free citizens are in the United States, yes, and the prison house says United States prison. It is the same government, but that is for the criminal society, not the free society. Similarly, okay, God is pleased by those who follow Varnashram Dharma. The government is pleased when people follow the laws. But you don't get a medal for stopping at a stop sign. You have to do something extraordinary. So when you do something extraordinary, then, so there's so everybody's following the path. The badge on the police officer says, United or Florida State Police. And the badge on the Medal of Honor will say United States Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, same government. How did I get to this? Oh, I met him in, oh, by the way, this will come, this connections. I met with Bhakti Sri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj, who other sannyasi said he is as brilliant as Jiva Goswami. Because he wrote one important book in, I think even the commentary is Sanskrit. He's very, very light, but he was outrageous. He's the one who started a riot in a town and called that Ramakrishna is a madman and Vivekananda is a Gunda criminal. And Sri Vindamaraj came to somehow pacify them. Prabhupada told me, he says, he got out with his life. They were gonna break him. But he was outrageous and brilliant. I was sent to Puri to have Jagannath deities made, and it took a few days. So I was there a few weeks, and every day I would go to Sri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj's mutt was in Jagannath Puri, also in Navadvip. You may have seen it's full of bas-reliefs all over. But in Puri, he had a mutt. Adjoining on the border was the Shankaracharya mutt, established by Shankaracharya centuries before. Shankaracharya established 4 Vaticans, 4 Peeths, one in Bhadrak Ashram in the north, Sringeri Mutt in the south, Dwarka in the east, and Puri in the west is Dwarka, and in the east, Jagannath Puri, and it's named Govardhan Mutt. So I think Shankaracharya was a Vaishnava, but Mayavad all over. So Siddhanta Maharaj was preaching from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I remember he was describing Haridas Thakur and tears shot out his eyes and splashed on his glasses, describing Haridas Thakur. But he also on loudspeakers. So his mutt is right on the border, on the back of the Shankaracharya's Mayavad mutt, which is like the Vatican, one of the 4 Vaticans of the Mayavadis call themselves Mayavadis, you know. So, and on the back were several samadhi, small shrine temples of their previous acharyas. So this is like if you took a loudspeaker in St. Petersburg Cathedral in Rome and was ranking on the Pope, you know, you'd get killed. Siddhanta Maharaj starts on the loudspeakers. You Mayavadis say Jagan Mithya? You say this world is false? You say this body doesn't exist? And why you have so many samadhi temples of the dead bodies of your acharyas out here? I was waiting for a riot also, but nobody said anything, but he was outrageous. So I met a big man. Prabhupada was kind of proud of me because I didn't say anything. All the Mayavadi Shankaracharyas spend some years in Vrindavan just to see how they can, Bhaktisiddhanta says, dismember the body of Krishna. They all spend time. They want to know what the Vaishnavas think. So a householder Mayavadi invited me to have darshan of Acyutananda Swami. He's very, very powerful Acharya Mayavadi. And he was almost formless because he was huge. He was 300-400 pounds, very obese. And he would always lie on the side. I don't think he could sit up. Very big. And yes, when I went there before the class, in the veranda of their mutt, these other Grihastha gentlemen were looking at me going, Namo Narayan, Namo, and I'm looking over, where's Narayan? You mean me? They call each other Narayan. You know, is it Gopinath Acharya or Chandrasekhar tells Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, you Mayavadis say Namo Narayan to each other. In the case of Mahaprabhu, you're right. He is. By the way, that also, I'm going back again, as I started, nothing was written about Jesus during his life. During Mahaprabhu's life, he was known as Bhagavan Sri Krishna. From the diaries of Sarup Damodar and Murari Gupta, and here even, is it Chandrasekhar or Gopinath Acharya was a relative of Sarvabhauma? It was known that Mahaprabhu is Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna Parabrahma. Anyhow, so then they bring me in, and there's a group, and Acyutananda's there, almost formless, and he looks at me and he goes, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I said, look, everybody in the world chant Hare Krishna except you. It was so offensive, the way he's. So he spoke his Mayavadi for a while and then asked questions, and my host said, put some question to Swamiji. I said, I have no question. Because I knew if I ask a question, he's going to respond with a bunch of Mayavadi. No, try to ask some question. I have no question. I told that story to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, he liked that. He was proud of me. Sometimes somebody once asked me, it was Shesha, Prabhu was here. And his wife asked me, did Prabhupada ever chastise you? I said, constantly. So I got that going. Where are we? How did I get to this? Oh. Bhaktisiddhanta told Prabhupada, Prabhupada told me, Bangla Bhasha, but he said, Bhaktisiddhanta received a lot of pledges of donations that didn't come through. And he said to Prabhupada, when he was Abhay Charanaravinda Das, he said, Bhaktisiddhanta said, because his money wasn't coming in, says there are two things that have reality, Krishna and money in the hand. Hate taka. So, what did I write here?
Would you want to take any questions?
No, I'm only on page 4 here. What? Anything great? What? Any great question?
Let me see. You're on page 4. I'm on page 13. I've got 13 pages of notes from your 4.
Part 2 is coming up here. 2 sides.
Let me see what questions we have. I've just got to scroll back here. There's quite a few here. Okay. There's one question. Can you ask Prabhu about his experiences composing the Vaishnava songbook and learning all the traditional tunes?
Yeah, this just came up because it's very funny. Some people of this Ritwik group, they say, oh, you don't need a living guru. Just read the books. Prabhupada said, read the books. One devotee came to Prabhupada and said, if we have a question, Prabhupada, what should we do? And Prabhupada said, read the books. See? I said, no, I don't see. He's standing right in front of his spiritual master. And he says, what should I do? Ask your spiritual master. Ask your spiritual master. So Prabhupada is standing there and he said, what should we do? I have a question. Ask me. I'm here. Similarly, somebody, maybe know this, is somebody brought Prabhupada's midday food up and puts it in front of Prabhupada's picture and starts offering it. Prabhupada says, what are you doing? I'm offering it to you, Prabhupada. He says, I'm here. What are you offering to the picture? So also somebody once asked, some goofy devotee once asked me, Acyutananda, do you know anybody that could teach me the songs of the Narottam and Bhaktivinoda Thakur? And I said, I used to know somebody like that, but I forgot his name. So I knew, because I was getting tapes, the old cassette tapes were the thing. Devotees must have been starving for some music, because all they had was Harinam and Panchatattva and Prabhupada pranams, because they must have been, and also Nirvishesha Shunyava. We were many times chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra like those Tibetan Buddhists, nong, 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 very impersonal. Or there's the Chinese Buddhist, Nam Myo Renge Kyo, Nam Myo Renge Kyo. They just say that with no, so they were getting starved for something with some juice, some rasa. And when I was, so they were writing their own songs that were very strange and rock and rolly, and that doesn't go. See, you know what rock and roll means? It means sex. That's what rock and roll means. So this is to get you to, wiggle. You don't chant the Maha Mantra to sex music. Doesn't go. That's rasa bas to the max. I said, they need some. And I was listening from in Gaudiya Mats. it's about 50% songs and 50% Mahamantra Kirtan. So I said, okay, I'll translate some of these songs and make tapes and records and send them. And Prabhupada sent me a letter. If your book is in English, we will publish it, and BBT published it. And Prabhupada wrote the introduction to that. And does that answer the question, or did you want to hear something more? But they loved it, and Shamarani Didi also writes in her book. This is the biggest preaching of this year, or maybe this Shamarani. Without effort, Shamarani gets to meet Modi. It wasn't planned; it just happened by arrangement of a higher power, and she gets to meet with Modi. Prabhupada is dancing. Prabhupada loved big, you know. I told this story before, but I'll say it again. I asked Prabhupada before the Vrindavan Rasamrita was built. I said, what if we spend all our effort and money to acquire Radha Damodar temple and the Samadhi and Bhajan Kuti of Rupa Goswami and have something small out in Rasamrita? Prabhupada said, I cannot think anything small. That is my disease. Even when I was working with Dr. Bosch, my plans were bigger than his. He could not keep up with me. And I've been using this also, just to expand on this. I've been using this also about changing Prabhupada's language in books. So Prabhupada said, I cannot think anything small. That's not proper grammar, maybe, but it's more powerful than proper grammar. But don't change it. I cannot conceive of the diminutive, No, that is no power. I cannot think anything small. And I don't care for your grammar either. You listen to the way I want you to. If there's something that's not clear, it makes the devotee want to understand. When you have a desire to understand, there's a bhava right there. You want to know Krishna. Bhaktisiddhanta's temples in Bagh Bazaar, especially, I remember, the deity door is very small, very narrow, and the deity is in the dark. The Srila Maharaj's deities, they're in the dark. You had to look, you had to, so right away there's this, what's that? Oh, I want to see. That creates the bhava right away, just by putting a narrow door. Prabhupada and Narayan Maharaj would say often, try to understand, this attempt. So I'll say it in words that you may not get right away. That makes you want to understand. So leave it alone. Harsha Prayog is called. As it is. Don't say, you can say it better. Does that answer the question about the songbook?
Yeah, I love what you said about how sometimes not having all the answers from one go is a bhava in itself. That's great. There's another question here, Prabhu. Could you please ask how much taller was Param Gurudev compared with Srila Gurudev? Because I'm doing a special art project for Srila Gurudev's centennial of Param Gurudev giving Srila Prabhupada his danda for his sannyas ceremony, and Gurudev is also in the picture.
Okay, public service announcement here. When you talk about it, usually I know when people say Gurudev, you mean Narayan Maharaj, but sometimes Narayan Maharaj, it's not. Yes. So occasionally mention the full title of your spiritual masters, your Gurudevs. Say Bhakti Pragyan. So now also you're saying Param Gurudev, you mean Keshav Maharaj. My Param Guru is
how much taller is Srila Keshav? Yeah.
My Param Guru is Bhaktisiddhanta.
Yeah.
Disciples of Bharati Maharaj, their Param Guru is Madhav Maharaj.
Yeah, no apologies, Prabhu. So how much taller is Srila Keshav Maharaj?
I don't know, because I only saw him sitting up in his bed. So, but Prabhupada was about 5'5". And we probably know from the great story when Keshav Maharaj exchanged clothes with Bhaktisiddhanta, he was also as tall as him, and he looked like him. He was very fair. Bhaktisiddhanta was also tall, and they changed clothes, and he went and took the rocks and the bottles in the Parikrama in Navadvip, and Bhaktisiddhanta escaped to Mayapur on the boats. So he must have been pretty tall, I would say, like that. So what describe what is the painting?
Who asked the question? 1 second. It's Harry Priya. Are you there? Harry Priya?
Dhanavad. I am doing a project on for Srila Gurudeva Srila Narayan Maharaj's centennial, and it's of Srila Bhakti Kesha Maharaj giving Srila Prabhupada his danda, and Srila Gurudeva is also present there. The three of them, it's like zooming in on that actual event of right that moment of when he's giving him his danda. So they're standing, and I just sort of wanted to get the proportions reasonably right. So yeah.
Could you put that in one sentence there? That's a lot. He was a little taller, yes. Graceful as a cat. Those you've seen him.
We have a
Bon Maharaj. Hold on. I have to get this. This is hilarious. Bhaktisiddhanta recognized that Banshidas Babaji was a genuine Paramhansa, but his behavior would not be understood. So he told the disciples, don't go there. I am even offering my dandabats at a distance. But Bon Maharaj, Bhakti Hriday Bon Maharaj told me that Bhaktisiddhanta once told him, go look in on Babaji Maharaj, Banshidas Babaji, because he is old and his behavior, see if he's all right. So he went to his kutir. It's all right where the boats are at Navadvip side. And he knocked on the door. Who's there? He says, your servant is here. Banshidas Babaji opens the door. He sees Bon Maharaj. He says, don't you see Rupa Manjari is standing right here? Get out. Bon Maharaj goes back to to Bhaktisiddhanta, tells him the story. Bhaktisiddhanta says, he's okay. He's all
right. Prabhu, you had a story when you asked Srila Maharaj about Prabhupada's ras, and then you used the word, I couldn't keep up. You used the word Madhuja or something?
Yes.
What is that word?
Madhurja rasa.
Oh, Madhurya. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
That's my Bengali accent.
Got it.
There's no ya in Bengali. It's ja. One time I was with the Madhwa Acharyas and his disciple, and I was saying Acharya, and the brahmachari asked the Madhwa in Udupi, says, why does he say Acharya? And I could understand. I said, that's Bengali. Even Bengali pundits will say Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, Samaveta, Jujutsavaha. So they laughed at that. That's a Bengali version.
Right. No, you looked a bit stunned when I asked you that question. Like, I've been that many years in Krishna consciousness and don't know what that word means. Now I understand it in Bengali. That's great. We have a question from Ruben Prabhu. Ruben, do you want to ask the question live directly?
Too late.
Ruben.
Okay, Srila Maharaj and Bhaktisiddhanta. No, I don't want to be like the first time when I'm rushed. Srila Maharaj told me they went on parikrama in South India, and he was with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and they were in Kanyakumari. That is also a Shakti Peeth. Some part of Sati's body fell there, and that is from Kalpas and Kalpas ago. Nobody knows when. And that is Kanya. That is the form of Durga as an unmarried maiden. Kanya means maiden. And she is looking, the temple, she's looking to the north. And in the north, there's a Shiva in the Himalayas. There's Dakshineshwar, and Shiva's looking south. So they're looking at each other across India. Bhaktisiddhanta tells Sri Maharaj, the perverted mind of the public. This is not Durga looking to Shiva. This is a young gopi looking to Vrindavan in the north, waiting for Krishna. And I said, but Guru Maharaj, this has been a Durga temple for, they're wrong. It is obvious. This is a gopi. This is not Durga. He told that. Did you, what was the question?
Hare Krishna, thank you for your very nice talk today. I was just on, I'm noting that you had a lot of experience dealing with Mayavadis and so on in your travels in India. I was just, one thing that's often kind of been trying to understand, we hear about Mayavadis and Brahmavadis. And we're understanding that from Sankaracharya, Mayavad was being propagated from his followers, at least, like that. So who are the Brahmavadis in Kali Yuga, and do they have a sampradaya? Sometimes when we read Prabhupada's books, we see Mayavadis, they become stones, stavara, and those that fall from the Brahman, they do philanthropic work. But is there any Brahmavadis practicing in this age?
Yes. Yes, there are some. Prabhupada said twice, 2 times we went to Kumbh Mela, and he had respect for the yogis. He said some of them are 500 years old. He said. Someone said, well, why do you have this big desire to go to Kumbh Mela? He said, to see all the saintly people there. Now, many of them were not Vaishnavas. Most of them are not Vaishnava. They come to see the Ganges that came from Shivas, and most I'd say majority were Shiva, and some of their Mahants were Shivites also, but he had respect for their practice, and they were Brahmavadis.
So what is this?
But the Mayavad of Shankaracharya has been picked up because it appeals to the atheist. Srila Maharaj once, one lecture, just crashed all of the arguments of Mayavad, and he finished by saying, and they should be buried underground. So a Brahmavadi is open that I have come up to the transcendental level to see that everything is created, maintained, destroyed by the Brahma Brahma Shakti, but they have to get the blessing, like the Kumaras, of being sincere enough that when they smelled the Tulsi aroma of Vishnu's lotus feet, that this is not a material sweet smell, and that means there is form. This is in it's also described in the Charitamrita chapter 5, the Nityananda expansions, all that goes into the Govinda Vashya of Baladeva Vijayabhushan, that the Shankaras do not know where the Chaturvyuha Vishnus are, because they're within the Brahmajyoti. They're not in the 14. They're not described anywhere in the 14.
So
last time I discussed the Taittiriya Upanishad, that the Anandas go up from a Vedic king up to Brahma, and then Brahma Moksha. It doesn't say anything about Goloka. As it's not there, you won't find it in the 14 worlds. It's not one of the 14 worlds. But if you're sincere, and this is the whole thing, I'd like someone to collect all the verses where it's because you are sincere, because you're my friend, because, and he says this to Brahma, to many, many other places in Bhagavatam and Puranas, and because you are non-deceptive, because you are sincere, because you are trusting me, then it can be real. But if you want to extract your own meaning, you can do that too, and because it appeals to atheists. Oh, I don't have to do any seva. I don't have to be a bhakta.
So would it be fair to say that all of Shankaracharya's followers are strictly Mayavadis and not Brahmavadis?
I didn't hear what.
Would it be fair to say that Shankaracharya's followers are strictly Mayavadis, those formats that you talked about?
Yes, if they read the Saririka Bhashya of Shankaracharya, what does Mahaprabhu say? Mayavadi Bhasha Shunile Hoilos Sarvanash. You listen to Mayavadi Katha, it destroys everything.
But at the same time, from what I'm hearing from you, Srila Prabhupada was respectful of Brahmavadis.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that.
The one way, if you can't defeat a Mayavadi or convince them because they're not sincere, but Shankaracharya, and when Sannyasi Vaishnav Das in Jaiva Dharma meets Babaji Maharaj, he mentioned, I was a Mayavadi Shankara at the Paramhansa stage of sannyas, and Babaji Maharaj salutes Shankaracharya because he preserved the Varnashram Sanatan Dharma. So if you can't get through to a Mayavadi, remind them that you are the descendant of Shankara who has come to preserve Hinduism. Okay. Okay, so we have another mission. Never mind your version of Vedanta, but you're here to preserve the Vedic culture.
Thank you.
So that's one way to get along with some Mayavadis, but don't listen to them.
Of course not. Okay.
But right at the beginning of your talk, you said something, I really liked it, but I couldn't get it down in my notes quickly enough. You were talking about how converts always reduce the new religion down to a more debased level, taking their old habits into it. And you said how this idea that Guru takes your karma, that gives people the excuse for sin. And then you had then two other examples. One was Varnashram Dharma, and another one. What can you remember what you said?
Yes, I've observed, there might be more, but so far I've observed three things. That they want to present Varnashram Dharma, not Krishna Bhakti, or what to speak of Braja Seva, or Radha Palyadasi Seva. My God, that they're not. But they want to push this Varnashram Dharma, which means you can be a karmi if you follow some regulations.
You can be a karmi.
You can be a karmi. That's for if people say, I can't follow the 4 regs. I can't chant minimum 16 rounds. But I like, so that's the outer side. That's for the Varnashram. They are for the Varnashram stage. So they'll help, they will work for us. They will make donations if they're
friends.
Prabhupada told me there are disciples. There are sons of the mother and sons of the father. Sons of the mother are interested in the material assets that the Guru inspires. Sons of the father are following and will carry on with the message and the Vani of the Guru. So those who are, consider, and we make all kinds of, yes, if you become Krishna consciousness, you'll always be happy, and you'll always be yoga kshemam yahamaham. You'll always be taken care of it.
And what was the third thing, Prabhu?
The Guru takes your karma. We fell from Vaikuntha and Varnashram Dharma.
So fell from Vaikuntha.
One of them is completely. Well, two of them are really completely.
But what does that give them the excuse to do? If you say I fell from Vaikuntha, what's the implication? In the same way.
Oh, I'm an avatar. This is my Leela.
Oh, I'm an avatar. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
In fact, Prabhupada was a Shakti Avesha avatar, but I came down from Vaikuntha to help him. Yeah. People ask me, did you come from Vaikuntha to help Prabhupada? I said, no, I was a miserable, ignorant fool, and Prabhupada saved me. Okay? It's not a Leela to be a so most of them are concentrated. Most of them want to see physical evidence. They want to see temples. Their main thing is temple. Kanishna is the temple. They have an edifice complex. They have an see everything. So the Muslims have a bigger mosque than your temple. That means they're better. See.
Of course. And on the subject of the Muslims, we have interesting question here. It says, how do Christ and Muhammad fit within the Vedic paradigm?
They don't.
There you go.
I think Jesus actually was teaching Vaishnava, and they completely covered it. There's an historian named Eisenman or Eisinger, and he has found that the Essene Jews wore a red upper line on their foreheads.
Oh, really? They're vegetarian as well.
I think there was Vaishnavism there, unspoken, and the history. Oh boy, there's so many histories that Jesus was invented by the Flavian emperors. There was a Jesus king of Edessa. There was there's so many things that have been. It's been 2,000 years. You can make up anything. See, Josephus, the historian, talks about, but he was born 3-4 years after Jesus was crucified. Anyway, he never knew.
Yeah. And actually, the four books of the New Testament, the book of John was written 100 years, at least 100 years after the death of Christ.
The nearest thing was things by Paul.
There's nothing like what Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is straight from the associate.
Yes, and during his time, we know that Mahaprabhu was accepted as.
Yeah. Prabhu, we've been going nearly over 2 hours. How much?
Can I?
Well, I know time is eternal.
Page 6. Okay, we have to go.
Yeah, well, yeah, because
Okay.
it's getting late, very late for me. Although those in America probably go on longer. But why don't we have you back again, Prabhu? Because are you about halfway through?
No, that's so much. Yeah,
Huh?
I should have been crossing out what I repeated, but we can repeat these anytime. I'll keep this.
It's fantastic. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. I loved it. I really like the way in which you sort of. I'm not sure if it's as random as you make out, but I love the way you jump around. It actually keeps you very. It keeps me very attentive. Actually, it's a nice. I'm not sure if it's an intended trick, but it works. Absolutely enraptured. Raghava, I can see Raghava there in America. Yeah, he looks happy. I think you made all the devotees really happy, Prabhu. Really happy. Really happy. Thank you.
Makes me happy too. But
So
the
nice.
lives, and this is important to know that there is a strong movement and urge to make Prabhupada into like a Jesus and God.
Yeah.
There was one, I was doing kirtan here some years ago, and I said, you come and do kirtan. And all he said was Prabhupada, 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 like that. Yes, we glorify our spiritual master, but Prabhupada is pleased when we chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The funniest story, I mean, I can't wait to tell someone else that story, is when the devotees bring in the food to Prabhupada, he offers it to his picture. And Prabhupada's like, what are you doing? I'm here. That's literally like live comedy. That's brilliant.
That's Kanishta. That's a Kanishta.
I just would love to. Were you there, Prabhu?
No.
Oh, I want to know what Prabhupada's facial expression was when that happened.
Okay.
Absolutely brilliant. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. We've got some kirtan to close, so please stay with us while we have our kirtanier all the way from California, Manini Radhadasi, Didi.
Haribol. Haribol.
Haribol. Dhanavad.
I was sharing with Acyutananda and Prabhu that today in the States is the appearance day of Sri Lalita Devi, Lalita Saki. So I wanted to do the Lalita Astakam. I really just learned how to do it. And I don't really know how to play kartals or mridanga yet. So I'm doing guitar, but I will offer this Vanchakalpa Tarubi.
It is not art. Many devotees said Prabhupada came into a temple and said, what is this singing? I never taught this. It will make people think that they have to be great musicians. You chant, just bang them together.
Okay, I do. Thank you.
You don't have to be
So I don't know. I've been at kirtans where I'm sure I'm like making not a good sound or a good contribution. So
Well,
But we learn over time. So, but I do think I can play this through on guitar, and I just say Vantikalpatarubhyas cha kripa sindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And for Lalita Devi ki jai. Okay. Radha Mukunda Parasambhava Karma Bindu Nirmanchano Pakarani Krita Deha Laksham Utunga Sarita Vishesha Vashat Pragalbam Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namami Rakasura Kirana Mandala Kanti Dandi Vaktra Shriyam Chakita Charu Chamuru Netram Radha Prasadhana Vidana Kala Prasidam Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namami Lasyo Lasad Bujaga Shatru Patatra Chitra Patam Sukha Barana Kanchuli Kanchitangim Goro Chanaru Chivikar Hana Gorimanam Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namami Dute Vrajendra Tanaye Tanu Sustuvamyam Madakshina Bhavakalan Kini Lagavaya Radhe Giram Shrinuhitam Hiti Shikshayantim Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namami Radham Habib Rajapate Kritamat Majena Kutamanaga Pivilokya Vilohitakshim Bhagvangi Bisti Machirena Twila Jayantim Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namami Vatsalya Vrinda Vasatim Pashupalaranya Sakyanu Shikshana Kalasu Gurum Sakinam Radha Balava Raja Jivika Nirvishesham Devim Gunait Lalitam Lalitam Namami Yam Kama Pivraja Kulevri Shabanu Jaya Preksha Svapaksha Paravim Manurudyamanam Sajastadista Gatena Gatna Kritatayantim Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namami Radha Vrajendra Shuta Sangamaranga Charyam Varyam Vinishitavitim Vi Akilo Savit. I'm sorry about that line. Varyam Vinishavatim Akilo Savya Beya Tam Gokula Prihasaki Nikuramba Mukyam Devim Gune Sulalitam Lalitam Namah Patani Padyani ya patati nirmala dristirasto Pritya vikashati janam nija vrindamaje Tankirtida patikuloj vala kalpavali Jai Lalita Devi Jaya Lalita Devi Lalita Devi Jaya Lalita Devi Jaya Lalita Devi Jaya Lalita Devi Lalita Devi Jaya Lalita Devi Jai Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jai Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Jai Guru Parampara Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Beautiful, Dandavat. Absolutely exquisite. I was a bit worried at one point though, because I looked up at Raghava's video and I thought he turned into a cow.
Yeah,
I was going to ask him about that.
Oh, that's kind of a mystical. I thought it was a mystical thing.
Like a
He's got
cow.
He was
some-
listening. He was hearing Kirtan.
He's beautiful. Which one is he? Which one's he?
Evan. There's Evan.
Oh, it's Evan. Oh, I love Evan.
Yeah.
He's beautiful.
He's grown. He's grown so much.
Wow. Look at that.
Hari Bol. Yeah, thank you.
Vanchikapa Turischa Kripasundrevicha Patitanam Pavenabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Naman Hare Krishna. Dandavats, everybody. If you feel like I'm going to leave the room open, if you guys want to carry on talking, you are very welcome to. You can.
Thank you, everyone.
No
Thank
need-
you, Achyuta Prabhu. Beautiful class. Thank you, Yashodanandan, for all
And
of
that
it.
is a good melody. It doesn't make you change the words to fit the syllables. You can
Yes.
hear the words.
Thank you. Hari Bol. Thank you.
Pranam, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the amazing program. Prabhu, I can't believe you met Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. It's really blown my mind. I didn't know any Westerners had met him. And so much for sharing. Thank
That
you.
year was the last chance.
Yeah. That really blew my mind. It makes him feel a lot closer, you know. It's a really nice feeling. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Prabhu, as well. I was very much appreciating hearing all the histories of the different bits and pieces that you were speaking. Very, very enlightening. Thank you.
I agree.
There
I was like
some more.
Yeah.
So,
soaking it up every second. I'm disappointed
Yeah,
that it stopped.
me too. Me too.
yeah, there was one spooky story of Jagannath Das. You may know this. Srila Maharaj told me that one day, century, disciple in the middle of the night, at midnight, he says, Baba, to Jagannath Das Babaji, says, Babaji Maharaj, there's a big feast being served in the next village. Can I go? And Jagannath Das Babaji tells the disciple, you can go there, but don't eat anything. Wrap up your leaf plate and bring it back and we'll look at it in the morning. He does that and he comes back with this leaf plate. Says, oh, there were thousands of people there being served plates of food. He says, open your leaf plate. And he opens it up, and there is stool and mucus and fingernail, toenail clippings. And he says, how did you know that I shouldn't eat anything there? Who would do this? He says, Brahmachari, nobody gives a big feast at midnight. They were all ghosts.
Wow.
You saw ghosts. And they put these filthy things down. Spooky story from Bengal. Yeah, on the 18th, there will be Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I really want to be there and hear that, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur changed he didn't change it, but he established and focused us on the Bhagavad Parampara. His Shikshra Guru was from the Bhagnapara caste, Smarta Brahmins, and his guru who made him Vaishnava was Vipin Bihari, who smoked cigarettes. And my feeling is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted to get the message to foreigners, and these Smarta Brahmins would never accept foreigners. They would be caste-minded. Oh, Bhaktivaibhav Purimaraj told me he was initiated just at the end of Bhaktisiddhanta's time. And he says, I saw how the whole thing broke up. I said, how? He said, the born Brahmin disciples never really liked to associate with the non-Brahmin disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta. They still kept their
Casteism.
There was a story of, there was some sannyasi who wouldn't take prasadam from the Westerners. And then later he wrote a letter to Prabhupada, I've been given a donation of land and a temple. Can you help me with funds to renovate the temple? And Prabhupada wrote back to him, the money has been gathered by my foreign disciples, so you may not want to touch it. Did that get through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
'Cause they were-
Yeah, that's Prabhupada's wisdom and grace and diplomacy at work.
Perfect Prabhupada comeback.
Prabhu, if you have time and you're happy to speak more, I mean, you said you had many more pages. I'm sure there are people who would like to hear, but only if it's okay for you.
I really did. I did cover all these.
Okay.
I think I did. Yeah, page 6 I covered because they, like Yasodananda Prabhu said, that it extends to the different personnel, and it's important. My thing, if it wasn't for Narayan Maharaj, we would never be introduced to the Bhavas and Radhapalya Dasi Baba. But you can't go there until the very first thing is Ado Sraddha. You have to have faith. And telling about all these other Vaishnavas gives me faith that this is not just one person that comes out of nowhere and starts something. But we have a long, long heritage right up to, I'll say, Latter-day Saints. So we have people that in our time, my time, that we're also following all of these things, just like Prabhupada. But there is famous, are we still recording it on YouTube?
Yes, we are. It's still, it says live.
Well, great. So this is the higher you build a building, the deeper you have to make the foundation. So the more we hear about these personalities, it strengthens and deepens our Shraddha. That's first, and then you go higher. So it's not that you leave off, oh, I have faith, and then go on. Your faith is weak, you won't be able to get these things. Won't be able to handle it, and your mind will be distracted. You have to have, someone sent me, Bhumipati of Brooklyn, sent me the Mukta Charita, the character, the pastimes or of the pearls described in Krishna, and grows pearls and sells them for fantastic prices. It's similar to Dan Kelikamudi. It gets very, very intimate. You have to have both feet in Goloka to read this, or you'll think of something mundane and you're out. So there's a nice audio of the complete Govinda Lilamrita. It's 24 hours long, spoken by what's his name? He became a Babaji in after ISKCON. He became Babaji. I forget his name now, but there's
Mahanidi.
Mahanidi, feed the needy and help the needy. And he has an audio of that. And just as Bhaktivedanta Tridandi has a full, complete audio of Jaiva Dharma, go over that again and again.
Prabhu, do you know where we could get that audio of Govinda Lilamrita?
I got it. I go on, just put in Wiki.
Okay. Google Dave.
it.
Google
Yeah.
Dave.
Google
As
Dave.
Maharaj, Madhav Maharaj says
Google
Dave.
Google Dave, and put in audio Govinda Lilamrita, and it's a very nice. It's in 99 parts. And you can listen anytime. You can look at your clock and say, what's Krishna doing now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what time of day? And you can start to get the idea of your Ashtakaliya Leela.
Yeah, you
Smaran.
know, do you know Mahabhuti Prabhu? Mahabhuti Prabhu, we're reading that together actually.
Okay.
A class. It's really, really beautiful to have. Read it in association. People.
What else?
Prabhu, we can talk a little. I'm a devotee that's connected to ISKCON. Just a little bit more about the shiksha. Like you said that Prabhupada was asking you, told you to take shiksha from Vindamaraj. And we always hear that Prabhupada said, if anything is spoken differently from what I've spoken, there'll be problems. So I very much appreciate when you were saying that to give a broader understanding of that, how some
that's the letter. That's the letter where Prabhupada says you should go to Sri Maharaj. You need a Shiksha Guru. I regard him as my Shiksha Guru.
He said that to you personally. Yeah.
It's in the letter.
Mm.
But believe me, in his last days, Srila Prabhupada spoke with Narayan Maharaj and said, please forgive me, I've spoken offensive things about my god brothers. And Narayan Maharaj says, don't worry, don't feel bad. We all do that. Because if you have new disciple, even, first 10 years, you have to guide them. Oh. You can't have them going, so so-and-so said, and this Swami said that, but you said that, and now you're going to, so of course, Jesus, they'll say, Jesus says, I am the only way to my Father. Everybody. If Buddha says Jesus is the only way, then you have an endorsement. Mm-hmm. But Buddha says, come to me only. Jesus says, come to me. Muhammad says, come to me only. Mm-hmm. If Jesus says, go to Muhammad, then you got it. Mm-hmm. Believe me, the Gaudiya Madhacharyas told their disciples, don't go to ISKCON. They're in Swami Maharaj's care.
So it's a principle at different stages of people's spiritual development.
Adhikar.
Adhikar, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But this faith, it's going to come to you when you come to the 5th canto. I was there when Prabhupada was telling Hayagriva and another professor about the structure of the universe, and I'm not even going to say because it's going to be cognitive dissonance. The 5th canto and the Puranas, all Puranas have to have 10 subjects. 3 of them are how does it go? Sarga, Visarga, and Stan. Overall creation, sub-creation, and this Jambudvip, Bharatvarsha. All of them. And in the Bhima Parva of Mahabharata, also it describes Jambudvip as the center of the universe. And Hayagriva and another professor, Janardhan, his name was, he said, don't say that, people will just reject us as crazy. So Prabhupada never really mentioned it too much, but when 5th canto came out, especially 5th canto, chapter 22, verse 8.
So that again, 5th chapter, 22. Verse 8.
Purport, where the dimensions of the sun are higher than the moon. And Prabhupada's purport is we accept the measurements of the Vedas. The measurements of the scientists are always changing. Since 1944, they changed the speed of light like 5 times because it didn't fit because something happened. Well, that shouldn't happen because it's slower or faster than the speed of light. Change the speed of light then. If the evidence is different than your theory, change the theory. But the Vedic measurements are constant. Many devotees left when Prabhupada said it is not physically possible to go to the moon. Well, that's lack of faith, lack of Shraddha. And that's why it's in the 5th canto, and that's not the 10th canto. But if you don't believe in the 5th canto, how are you going to go to the 6th canto and to the 10th canto? I have a question. Where does it say that we should study the Bhoma Lila always? It is said like that. But this is also a Jiva Tattva. Prabhupada describes that in the chapter, I think it's 48, when Nanda Baba is arrested by Varuna. And then he goes on to say that when there's spiritual maturity, you go to the Bhoma Lila. And there the training goes on. And that is the first time the Jiva has an opportunity to serve Krishna. Yeah. And there is a conversation between Narayan Maharaj and Gorgov Vindamaraj. He says that the Bhoma Lila is called Sadhana Lila. You're still practicing. And I think this has to be verified by others. You can fall down from that.
You can fall down from that.
I think yes, because an example is the associate of Mahaprabhu falls down by some gypsies in South India. See, he's there in the presence of Mahaprabhu, but he's attracted to the gypsy ladies. But he doesn't. Then he goes back to Puri, and the devotees there give him a service also. So he doesn't fall. But so Prabhupada is never wrong to say we were with Krishna. He says that. Yeah, we were with Krishna in Mahavishnu, in Shankarshan. We were with. And we're in his Leela. This is the Shrishti Leela. Just like the prison house is an activity of the government.
Where's that conversation between Srila Narayan Maharaj and Srila Govindamaraj?
In my email business. So where is it? I think contact Bhumipati in Brooklyn. Lolium is his email name. And there's a great conversation. They go very deep. Very far into it in Bhubaneswar.
Oh, how do I
very good.
how do I get in touch with him? How do I...
Yeah, I'm also very interested.
Yeah.
Very interested.
Yes,
I will post it. I'll post his email. I'll post his email in the
Oh.
chat right now.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
Because he's
because I can't go from Zoom into my
No, no
browser.
problem. If you can,
Prabhu.
I appreciate that.
and also because Bhumi Pati Prabhu does I'm in a class with him like 5
Oh.
days a week, Monday through Friday. He does a class. Mukunda Prabhu does Ishtagosti on Mondays. And then Tuesday through Friday, Bhumi kind of guides the class. But I'll put his email here. It's lolium@aol.com. So
Yeah, if you put that, but that's, you're in America, we're in England, yeah. So
yeah, I know it's a different time. But I mean, yeah, that works though.
Yeah, no problem. Did I record the classes so you could hear them offline if you
Bhumi does record, but I don't, he's doesn't post them or on YouTube. I'm not sure, but I just put his email. So, and I'll call him after this class and let him know he might be getting some calls, but he sends out some wonderful things and a lot of things he gets from bvmlu.org, where Puri, I think it's Puri Prabhu had put a lot of things together in the site. Puru, yeah, thank you.
So we could
Prabhuji, Prabhu Acyutananda Prabhu, can I ask you, like, since I'm the disciple of Sri Vindamaraj, I was wondering, since you mentioned his name, did you have any exchanges or time spent with him?
No, I was traveling and I saw him when he was on the, giving lecture, he was on fire. He was explosion. When I just happened to see him on the veranda in Mayapur, he looked very ordinary. He just looked at me. I never knew him. Bhagavat Maharaj will know. Our Bhagavat Maharaj had much more association with him.
Thank you.